one of my favorite like solo trips. I love to just drive in a car, right? And I'm going from back in the day, my favorite drive was the Sacramento to the Bay Area. About 90 minutes, you hop on I-80, you're rolling, cruising, and I would roll solo and, you bump your music, whatever you wanted to listen to. Back in the day, it was 103.5 or 102, 101 if you like, the slower jazzy type, old school. But I would bump my music and I would just be rolling, and 30 to 45 minutes into the drive, you would lose your signal on the station. So if I'm bumping 103 and I'm listening to my music, I would know where I was on the drive because you would get static. It would get staticky and you would try to switch. I'd go from 103 to 102 to maybe 101.1. And the more you went into the hills, the more staticky the signal was. And I knew the stations for the Bay Area, but I was not yet in the Bay to make the switch. So if I went to the Bay Area stations, they didn't come in yet. So it was this space, 30 to 45 minutes outside of Sacramento, but you were still about 30 to 45 minutes outside of the Bay. You could call it a dead zone. And in this zone, I'm driving and you can't listen to the music that you knew, but you can't also listen to the music that you want to listen to. And being in that space, you kind of drive and you're in your own thoughts. But I think about that drive and I think about that situation, about how often we can find ourselves in situations in life where you're no longer where you used to be, but you're not yet where you're trying to go. And you're in this dead space. You're in this in-between space where you say, I can't find the tune for 103 anymore, but I can't yet find the Bay Area station. So I'm in this space in between. And oftentimes in life, when we find ourselves in the in-between space, we so often want to go back to what we knew. But you can't do that. You want to jump forward to I know that station in the Bay. You're not there yet. So we're sitting in between what we once knew and where we want to go, in the in-between space, in the dead zone, and we're sitting and we're laying and we say, I don't yet have the right frequency. Like what I was attached to is no longer attached to me, but then what I want is not yet reachable. So what do I do in this in-between space when I'm trying to find who I am, where I should be, how I should position myself? And in the discovery of finding yourself, you have to lose yourself. In the discovery of finding your footing, you have to lose your grounding. It's such an anomaly. It's such an ironic and almost countercultural way of thinking that oftentimes life will put us in situations where we are not yet who we want to be, but we are no longer who we once were. And in this in-between space, can I talk about frequency? Can I talk about being in a situation where you have to understand that everything around you resonates? The people that you are with, the food that you eat, the music that you listen to, the environments that you're around, the buildings that you step in, the way in which you talk, the conversations that you have, the clothes that you wear. This is frequency, this is sound, this is connection, this is real, this is vibration. Let's talk about it. Let's talk real about it. Let's talk about finding yourself in situations where you say, how can I find the frequency that will now align with not where I was, but where I am choosing to go? If I say to myself, I want to grow into something that is no longer resonant with where I was, what do I have to do to get to that space? And I remember sitting in the whip. I remember riding in the Honda Accord. And I remember playing with the radio signal and saying, man, I don't get it. That 103 isn't working anymore. But the Bay Area station isn't working. So I'm in this transitional space. And transitional spaces can cause frustration. Transitional spaces can be beyond frustrating. They can be confusing. Transitional spaces can have us believe that we are not where we are supposed to be. Transitional spaces can have us thinking that all the work that we've been doing, all the miles that you put in, the ways in which you jumped in, you hopped on the freeway and you went. You said, I'm going. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I buckled up and I went after it. But for some reason, I'm in this space where the signal isn't coming through. And that which I want to listen to, I can't hear. But that which I used to hear, I can't hear anymore. And now I'm in this space. God, help me out, because this transition season is so frustrating to me. I don't understand. If I don't have my grounding, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? This is growth. This is trying to find our balance. The process that we have to go through to shed who we once were to become exactly who we were called to be. It's not easy, it's difficult, it's challenging, and it'll put you through some. It'll have you thinking you're going in the wrong direction. But in those spaces, it's so important for us to understand, just hold on. Continue through your transition. Continue through the process. If you hear that static, if things aren't necessarily coming through clear, that means that transition and change is happening. And sometimes that change is longer for some than others. Man, when I hopped on the I-80 and I go to the Bay, it's a quick transition. But on the way back, it's a different route. It's a different route because Sacramento to the Bay, you go one way, you go through the hills, but on the way back, I don't know the roads, but I'm telling you, it's not the same. So sometimes the transitional season won't be the same length, won't be the same atmosphere, won't look the same. But in those seasons, it's so important for us as individuals to understand, man, I'm going through a transitional season. I'm not who I once was, but I'm not yet where I'm supposed to be. And in those seasons is where your faith is tested. In those seasons is where you have to understand this idea of frequency. That which you resonated with and that which resonated with you is almost shedding. It's falling off of you. And that which is trying to call you in is going to be new and different. Hold on in your transition season. Hold on into this. It's a hold on season. It's not a pretty season. It's not a result-oriented season. It's not a fruitful season. The fruit is the change that's happening within you. So allow that to happen within you before it happens in front of you. Riding the whip. Man, I remember that trip like it was yesterday, over and over again. Sacramento to the Bay Area. And when you ride through those hills, you're going to lose the signal. Just because you lose the signal doesn't mean you should lose your footing. Just because you're in a transitional season doesn't mean that there isn't fruit to bear. Just hold on. Just hold on.